Isn't it interesting how things change with a little perspective? What once seemed really important doesn't seem as important as it once did. What once felt like a crushing blow now seems like only a speed bump along your journey. What once seemed impossible now not only seems possible, but maybe even preferable. Perspective changes things. Sometimes we gain perspective with the passing of time. The further away we get from something, the more clearly we can see things that we couldn't see before. And sometimes we gain perspective with the changing of location. By moving or changing positions, now we can see things that we simply were unable to see before. So this is another secret to Selah. When we take time to pause in the presence of God, to rest quietly in the presence of Jesus, to reflect on His goodness and grace, and remember His faithfulness throughout our lives, we gain perspective. Spending time over time in His presence gives us another vantage point, another lens to look through. And changing locations, physically going to a quiet place, a place you've determined to spend time with God, in the presence of God, whether that's a chair in your bedroom or a park bench along a quiet trail, locating yourself in the light of the presence of God has the potential to change your perspective. And this is what happens when we take time to Selah. Selah brings perspective. And whenever we come into the presence of God with all of our fear, our trouble, our anxiety, the size of our worries shrink. When you think about it, what giant could we face that our God couldn't conquer? Even Goliath was no match for a shepherd boy when God was on his side. What river is so wide that we would need to cross that our God couldn't separate? Even the rushing waters of the Red Sea were no match for God when Israel needed a way through to escape their enemies. What walls had been built that our God couldn't crumble? Even the mighty walls of Jericho were no match for the people of God. And all they did was march around those walls in prayer and worship and then watched as God brought the walls down. What grave could be so dark and deadly that our God couldn't bring forth resurrection? Just ask Lazarus what happens when Jesus arrives on the scene to let everyone know that even though everyone thought this person was done, that they were as good as dead, that their story was over, with Jesus, the story is just beginning. You see, when we take time to Selah, we remember. We have perspective. Our God is bigger, greater, wiser, stronger, larger, braver, mightier than absolutely anything that could ever possibly come against us. And when we pause in His presence, when we take time to Selah, all our fears begin to melt away. So may you today take time to Selah in the presence of God. And when you do, may you remember that your God is for you, your God is with you, His Spirit is living within you, and today you only need to be still, to be quiet in His presence, and take time to rest, to reflect, and to remember the goodness of God. And there in the light of His presence, may you receive the help and the hope and the healing that you need. Selah.